All right, good morning and welcome to the Landmarks Preservation Commission's public hearing and public meeting of Tuesday, November 26, 2024. We will begin this morning by taking attendance, and I'll ask our Deputy Counsel, John Weiss, to call the roll.
Chair Carroll.
Here.
Commissioner Bland, Commissioner Chapin, Commissioner Chen.
Yeah.
Commissioner Chu.
Here.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
Here.
Commissioner Goldblum.
Here.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Yeah.
Commissioner Lutfi. Commissioner Master.
Yeah. All right, good morning and welcome to the Landmarks Preservation Commission's public hearing and public meeting of Tuesday, November 26, 2024. We will begin this morning by taking. We good? Okay. All right, welcome again to our public hearing and public meeting of November 26, 2024. This meeting is being held in person in our public hearing room at 1 Center Street on the 9th floor. It is also being held via Zoom. If anyone would like to participate remotely, you can find the Zoom information on our website. And it is also being live streamed on our YouTube channel for anyone who would like to watch the proceedings. And we have applications for work on designated properties to review today. And I will turn it over to our Director of Preservation, Corey Harala, to take us through our public hearing and public meeting agendas.
All right. Thank you, Sarah, and good morning, everyone. Start today's Preservation Department agenda with public hearing item number 1, LPC 25-02824, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 322, Lot 27, 136 Kane Street in the Cobble Hill Historic District. This is a row house built circa 1845 to 50, and the application is to create new window openings and construct rooftop and rear yard additions.
Good morning, Commissioners. Michael Ingwe from Ingwe Architecture, and I'm here to talk about 136 Kane Street in Cobble Hill. As you can see, it is a corner property, and you can see the tax photo in Cobble Hill on the corner of Kane and Cheever. Just some existing conditions. The interior of the house. Work in the rear facade as well, but you can see with the different side window openings. We are proposing to regain the side yard that was once there with ironwork that comes through, and we're here to talk about rooftop addition as well as the rear addition and side windows. You can see from the front facade, both in elevation and in rendering, that we have a rooftop addition and side windows. The rooftop addition is not visible from Kane Street, so we have a mock-up on site, but it is a corner house and it's visible from both other angles. It is designed in a way where. Could you pause for just a second? I might pick up a problem. This is better? Great. Okay. Do you want me to start from scratch or? Okay, great. Got it. So you can see from the front facade that it's not visible from Kane Street. Just to, I think it's easiest to kind of talk about it in this view, where we are extending the 2 chimneys in the side. We are setting the rear, the rooftop addition back a bit from those to have it recede back from the side facade. We are also taking the existing masonry wall and moving it back for the rear addition. And we are setting this rear portion of that rooftop addition back as well. Here's that side facade that you can see with the extended chimneys.
the rooftop addition will be black. It will be wood painted with tilt and turn windows. The house is a passive house, so all the windows are simulated double hung. The mechanicals are in the yard, and we only have one unit, so it was kind of easy to do. You can start to see the rear addition and the scope from this angle, as well as in the back. I'm going to keep going and then go back. So here's a focus point of that rooftop addition. Again, not visible from Kane, set back about a foot so that the chimneys and that facade extend. We will have existing brick from this facade to do anything we want with these chimneys, so it will look consistent. We are going to want up repointing this rear facade, this side facade. The rear facade, if we had a choice, would be brick, but we've already done a test and we do not think we can get the stucco off. So it will be stucco because we think we would destroy the brick by removing it. Just some contextual views showing the mock-up. There are a lot of precedents in the neighborhood for seeing rooftop additions, for seeing rear additions, especially on corner houses. And this gives you a sense of what we did and how we did it. The top floor, we reduced the ceiling height to 8 feet. The rooftop addition ceiling height is also 8 feet. This vertical shaft you see is a dumbwaiter, not an elevator, so that we wouldn't have to have an elevator shaft protrude above that level as well. There are no railings that are required at the top. And this gives you a sense of that rear facade in the back. I think that's everything, unless you guys have questions.
All right, thank you very much. All right, commissioners, do we have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Ginsburg.
Do you have any details of the windows you're proposing?
Yeah, I actually I showed the beginning part of the presentation, but the rest. Yeah, and I can go, I mean, we have plans and sections and lots. I was just.
Yes, that.
Are they not in here? I guess they're removed from here. We do have them though. Yeah, they're made, the company that we're going to go with is Zola Simulated Double Hungs.
I know so.
Yeah,
Okay.
But we have them in our full LPC package, but they've been removed from here because we're
Thank
doing
you.
most of that at staff level.
Yeah, so they meet they match the details enough to qualify for a staff level permit. Right, any other questions? Let's see if we have any public testimony. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on this item? I guess not seeing anyone, I'll turn it over to Gregory Kala to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have one remote participant with their hand raised, that being Christina Conroy from the Victorian Society, New York. Christina Conroy, I'm promoting you to panelist right now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Christina Conroy for the Victorian Society, New York. Now, founded in New York City in 1966, the Victorian Society in America is dedicated to fostering the appreciation and preservation of our 19th and early 20th century heritage. The New York chapter promotes preservation of our historic district's individual and scenic landmarks, interiors, and civic art. Now, the Victorian Society supports some aspects of this proposal, including the new window openings facing Cheever Place. The applicant has provided many pictures of row houses of this period, situated at the ends of blocks where the original builders took advantage of their location to provide window openings on 3 facades. The number, size, and proportion of the proposed windows all seem appropriate, although we couldn't find any notes stating that the new window openings will align with the historic openings on the primary facade. Now, if this isn't spelled out on the drawings, a note to this effect should be added before the permit is issued. We can also support construction of the rear extension when seen from Cheever Place on the new side wall will be similar to the historic rear extensions in the terms of material, scale, and details, but we believe it could be improved. The 19-foot wide window opening at the rear of the parlor floor will not only be visible from the street, but it's also becoming a cliche for rear yard additions. Now, we know these architects can do better. A trio of full-length French windows aligned with the windows on the upper floors would provide ample access to the rear deck and help unify this visible facade. What we cannot support are the use of simulated double-hung windows and the proposed rooftop addition. When tilt and turn windows are open, it's immediately apparent that they are not historically appropriate in a 19th century row house. Also, because of this building's position on a corner, these windows will be very visible. The proposed rooftop addition, which will be fully visible, is not appropriate. We appreciate the architect's clever use of chimney extensions, but they don't disguise what is a box set on the roof. Except for the use of multi-light windows, it bears no relation to the historic house. We also fear the inevitable application a few years after construction is complete to build new roof decks and in the front and rear and push the handrails out to the parapets where they will be very visible. Now, the architects may state that there are no plans to do so, but that children's classic, when you give a mouse a cookie, gives a good forecast of what happens when New Yorkers see a way to expand their outdoor space. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional attendees with their hands raised, so I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 6 recommends approval. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Thank you. And I would just, again, like to clarify that the simulated double hung windows, high performance windows are eligible for a staff level approval. Our rules were modified several years ago to allow this type of installation. So we're going to be looking at the rooftop addition, the rear yard addition, and the new window openings on the side, on the Cheever Place facade. Would you like to respond to any of the comments on those aspects?
Yes, thanks. Only that the windows on Cheever will align with the front facade proportions.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, any other final questions? All right. Then we'll move to close the hearing. Commissioner Jefferson, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So move.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum, would you second that motion?
Second.
Sorry, I caught you there. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right. So as I said, we're going to be looking at the rooftop addition, the proposed rear yard addition, and the new window openings on the Cheever Place facade. And the applicant has shown that we have, and as we've heard in testimony, we have approved other rear yard additions with this type of fenestration pattern. The applicant has shown other corner buildings in the historic district with visible rooftop accretion. So we can think about whether those are, whether the proposed addition is consistent with those or not, and how it's treated in terms of its materiality and design. And then the windows will align on Cheever's Place, as we've heard, with the windows on the front facade. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you like to start this one?
Yes. So first of all, I want to commend you for doing Passive House. And somebody who does that in my own practice, I know it isn't easy, particularly with historic buildings. I just want to flag a few things, really two things. Reuse of existing bricks is not recommended by the Brick Institute of America. I understand the appeal and it can be done, but be careful, and you may need to find new bricks that match well the existing. The other thing that's a little hard, I think the use of the extension of the chimneys and the setback of the addition all makes sense, but it's a little hard since there's no real color rendering to understand how the color works. And I think you said it be black, and I think it may make sense as more zinc panels and maybe somewhat fewer windows. So my comment is working with staff to look at a color rendering and work on trying to make it fit in better and look like a rooftop accretion. But in general, the windows on the side facade make sense. The rear addition is fine.
Thank you. Commissioner Chen?
Yeah, I think Commissioner Ginsburg touched on it, is is the visibility and how it will actually look like in real life. So I will defer to the staff and because we don't see the color rendering here.
All right, Commissioner Chapin? Okay, Commissioner Chu?
Yeah, in general, I'm in agreement with my fellow commissioners. I think that the side Cheever Place windows look appropriate. It's good to see windows around on a corner building. I think the rear yard addition in terms of massing and scale seem appropriate. Yeah, my concern is just the visibility of the rooftop penthouse and the amount of glazing in that it feels so disjunctive with the existing historic building below. Maybe the applicant should relook at the window size, placement, and materiality of the cladding of the rooftop so it feels more in keeping with the existing materials.
Commissioner Master?
Yeah, I'm actually in agreement. I think that the window fenestration on this side is appropriate. The rear yard addition is appropriate. The only issue is really the visibility of the rooftop addition. And, I agree with all the comments that were made before by the other commissioners.
Okay, Commissioner Jefferson?
I thought the Cheever side windows were fine, but I wish they would, rather than place it in terms of function, place it in front of design of somewhere. I think the addition to the back is fine, but then I thought, why not put the windows just facing the donut and not Cheever Street? But it's fine. I can accept that. The roof windows, it's a beautiful window to beautiful place to be in. I'm just wondering if there was something they could do with the facade there, maybe one window, maybe not. Right now, it's so dominant on that street facade. It's just too strong. And I can see why they want to have a window on that face, but maybe there's another solution with staff they could come up with.
Okay. Commissioner Goldblum?
I'm actually okay with it as is, but it sounds like the winds are blowing in a different direction, so I'm certainly okay if staff works out with them to make the changes that others have recommended.
Okay. All right, so why don't we make a motion to approve it with the modification that they work with the staff to restudy the size and fenestration and materiality of the rooftop addition to help it recede more.
Got it. With regards to LPC 25-02824, 136 Kane Street, Cobble Hill Historic District, a row house built circa 1845 to 50. Application is to create a new window openings, construct rooftop and rear yard addition. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Cobble Hill Historic District. I recommend approval with modifications, finding that the proposed work will not eliminate or damage any significant architectural features, that the installation of new window openings on the Cheever Place facade will only require the removal of plain masonry, and the new windows will match the historic windows in terms of material, configuration, details, and finish, that the proposed placement and pattern of the new window openings will be in keeping with the fenestration pattern and solid void ratio of side facades of corner buildings throughout the historic district, that the proposed rooftop addition will not be visible directly over the front facade except for chimney extensions, which will be in keeping with other visible chimneys found within the historic district. That the proposed raised masonry chimneys above the side facade will be in keeping with the typical chimneys found on buildings of this age and style within the historic district. That the proposed two-story rear yard addition will be consistent with the height and depth of other rear yard additions within the block and will not diminish the central green space. And that the material and design of the street wall rear yard addition featuring red brick cladding with large masonry openings in the rear facade and punched openings on the side facade will recall the typical masonry material palettes and fenestration found at secondary facades throughout the historic district. However, I find that the proposed rooftop addition will be highly visible from multiple vantage points over the side and rear facade with large amounts of glazing atypical of visible rooftop additions in this historic district. And also that the color and materiality of the addition needs to be reviewed, and that the cumulative effect of the visible rooftop and rear yard addition will overwhelm the building as currently proposed. Therefore, I recommend that working with staff, the amount of glazing of the Cheevers Place facade of the rooftop addition be reduced, and that the materiality of the rooftop addition be studied.
Right, and I think, well, we'll say that they can work with the staff to study the size, slope, materiality, and or fenestration, some combination of those four to help it recede from view. All right, Commissioner Chen, would you second that motion?
Second.
All right. Aye.
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 Commissioner Ginsburg.
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum. Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
8 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
All right, so please continue to work with the staff on that.
We'll now move to public hearing item number 2, LPC 24-03406, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, block 1165, lot 47, 344 Park Place in the Prospect Heights Historic District. This is a Renaissance revival style row house designed by Benjamin Dreisler and built in circa 1906. The application is to create new window openings and install the rear deck.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marta Satwin-Ramberg, and I'm the architect for this townhouse, and I'd like to show what we're proposing to do.
Martha, if you would just click on the screen with the mouse, you can advance the slides using your arrow keys.
Wow. Great. Thank you. So our townhouse, a corner townhouse located in the Prospect Heights Historic District. And this is the aerial view. And so historical tax map photos and the current historical view. Actually, this is from 2018, has changed slightly since then. And what we would like to propose on the long side on the Underhill, it's actually located in the corner of Underhill and Park Place. And on the side of the Underhill, we would like to propose 2 additional windows that match the other windows that are on the same facade. And I have another view that actually will explain that it actually lines up with an already existing window that's on the basement level. In addition to the windows, we would like to also do a stair with a small deck that will allow the duplex unit owner to reach the backyard. And here's the shot from the inside of the backyard, looking at the deck and the stair along the fence. One of the windows that will not be visible from the public thoroughfare will be elongated to create a terrace door. That's an additional item. This is the elevation that I kind of wanted to reach to explain the windows. As you can see, the proposed 2 windows are in line with an existing window that's on the basement level. And in the same image below, you can see how the proposed deck and the stair are mostly hidden by the fence. There's an outline on the elevation indicating the height of the fence. And there is a portion that's visible. And this is the rear elevation for the proposed stair and deck and the terrace door to reach that. And floor plans indicating where we're proposing the window. This is for the 2nd floor. As you can tell, it works nicely on the exterior, lining up with another window, and it works really beautifully on the inside too, flanking the existing fireplace. The windows we're proposing are the simulated double hung that were already approved on staff level for all the other window replacements, so they will be an exact match. And here are the details for the deck, which we're proposing to be black with black railing. That's kind of in line with a lot of detailing that's in this neighborhood for the ironwork, and as kind of perforated decking that will allow a little bit of light through as well. And my last slide is just indicating similar buildings in the neighborhood that are very actually few that are identical. There's almost not a corner building that has a backyard. Most of them have garages and other configurations, but those are the ones that we found that are most like ours, with railings, black railings, the wooden fences, and that fit in the neighborhood.
Thank you. All right. Any questions, commissioners? All right. All right. Let's see if we have any public testimony. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on this item? Okay. Noting that there isn't, I will turn it over to Gregory Kala to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. If you'd like to speak on this item, please click the raise hand button now. Mary Shuford, if you are here with us and you would like to speak on this item, please click the raise hand button. I do remember you did sign up beforehand. Okay, noting that there are no hands raised, I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 8 recommends approval, and we did receive a letter from the Prospect Heights Neighborhood Develop. Oh, Mary Shuford has raised her hand. So I will be promoting you to panelist right now. And once you are a panelist, please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for letting me speak. I apologize. I had trouble raising my hand. My name is Mary Shuford. I represent the Prospect Heights Neighborhood Development Council. As was stated, the application modified a previously approved application by creating 2 new window openings and installing a rear deck. The 2 new window openings that will be added, as the architect explained, will be added on the parlor and 2nd floor facade and will be visible from Underhill Avenue. They will match the existing windows in size and finish. They will align horizontally with the existing windows on each floor and vertically above an existing window on the basement level. The new rear deck will be full lot width and extend 6.5 feet deep at the sides. It will extend 5 feet 6 inches from the existing bay. The window opening on the west side of the bay will be enlarged to accommodate a glazed door to the deck, which will not be visible from the public thoroughfare. The decking and treads on the stairway will be galvanized steel grating, and railings will be black painted metal. Only the railing on the deck will be visible from Underhill Avenue above the wooden backyard fencing. The proposed modifications are modest and are comparable with the character of the existing buildings within the block and historic district. PHNDC does not have any objection to this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note again that Brooklyn Community Board 8 recommends approval. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the testimony was supportive. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we move to our discussion? Okay. All right, then we'll close the hearing and begin that. Commissioner Master, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Chu, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing is closed. And so there are two components to this application. One is to create new window openings, two new window openings on the side facade of this corner building, which will align vertically with the basement window below and horizontally with the other windows on the facade. And then to install a deck at the rear yards that is visible from the side street. Commissioner Chen, would you like to start this one?
Yeah, this one is a very modest. I can find it appropriate, especially with a rear deck.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Chapin?
Yeah, I think the changes to the fenestration and the addition of the deck are modest and appropriate.
Commissioner Chu?
Agreed. Well documented, very clear, rational response to existing building interior and exterior.
All right, Commissioner Master?
I agree, it's appropriate.
Both items appropriate.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum? And Commissioner Ginsburg?
Agreed. I'd also just compliment them. The deck looks like it was a fire escape or something. It's just really nicely done.
Nicely done. Thank you. Okay, so Commissioner Chen will make the motion.
In the matter of LPC 24-03406, 344 Park Place, Prospect Heights Historic District. The application is to create a new window openings and install a rear deck. Noting the building's style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Prospect Heights Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the proposed new window openings will only require the removal of a limited amount of plain masonry and will not substantially alter the solid to void ratio of this facade, and that the new windows will match the material, configuration, details, and finish of the historic windows, that the proposed deck, which will be visible from Underhill Avenue due to a corner site of the building, will be simply designed and typical in terms of placement, size, material, and finish, and will not call undue attention to itself, and that the work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building or the historic district.
Thank you. Commissioner Chapin, would you second that motion?
Second.
All right, John, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
8 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
So that's approved. Thank you. And we'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 3, LPC 25-02534, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 1170, Lot 27, 286 Sterling Place in the Prospect Heights Historic District. A Romanesque revival, Renaissance revival style row house designed by Benjamin Dreisler and built circa 1859. The application is to modify the rear extension.
Hello, my name is Mark Barak. I'm a principal at DTLS Architecture. Thank you for letting us present. I'm here to show our proposal for 286 Sterling Place. This is in Prospect Heights Historic District. There we go. We're proposing an interior restoration and a small rear addition with some alterations on the rear facade. There we go. This is a unique site. It's just northeast of Grand Army Plaza, but I want to highlight one of the unique factors is that it has a front facade that faces Sterling, but the rear facade is visible from Butler, and we're going to primarily be focusing on the rear facade. In the aerial view, you get an idea for how the neighborhood works. It's a triangular shaped block, and the rear is used as a parking area and a deck, but there's also an existing rear addition that's 2 floors. If we start to zoom in, this is the existing state of the rear. There was an original 3-story brownstone, and then they built a small addition in the back. There's some key factors which we're going to be modifying, and we're going to highlight those in a little bit. But the primary changes involve how the existing rear addition is connected to the main house. We're also going to be focusing on this little pocket right here where there's sort of a light shaft and how that's created a functional issue with the connection between the two structures. This is taking a look at the rear facade. There's some punctuated moments that we want to highlight. There were originally consistent windows along the second floor of the building, which have been modified. Our intention is to restore those towards the original dimensions. There's also a rear fireplace and no window facing the rear. We intend to restore those portions. We also intend to place a roof deck outside of the second floor room and then fill in the gap between the addition and the original home. Here's side-by-side imagery to show what the existing conditions look like and what we're going to be doing in our proposed design. Perhaps the most dramatic feature can be highlighted right here where my mouse is. There's a wedge of space that we're going to be adding, which will create a seamless connection between the existing addition and the original house. But we're also going to be using it as an opportunity to perform substantial updates to the rear, such as adding a new window, removing the existing chimney, and then restoring the window pattern. It's important to highlight that we have existing stained glass transom windows, and there's 3 of those currently that would be removed, but we're going to restore them and then reuse them in the new design. And as you focus in on the proposed addition, what we're doing is taking this space that's sort of dark and unappealing, and we're giving it the opportunity to be a more functional space. Zooming out from the street, our intention is to make this addition as seamless as possible and also improve the overall scale and pattern of the rear windows on the second floor so that it will look more authentic to the original design of the building. If we look at the technical drawings, we went to great lengths to scale the windows and the proposed door so that it would fit the existing transom windows so that we could reuse them. Also, any new window or door that we're proposing would be from Marvin, which would be designed to stitch in with the existing fabric of the neighborhood. Quickly to go through the floor plans just to give you some context. The ground floor only has interior modifications, but when we get to the parlor level, you'll see perhaps the most dramatic change. Right now, there's a very poor connection between the original addition and the main dining room. By creating a wedge-shaped connection, they're more seamlessly connected, bringing more light into the center of the brownstone. It also gives us more flexibility when laying out the kitchen itself. Moving further up the building, we'll be able to add a more connected roof deck to the room that's adjacent to it. And the top floor is strictly interior work. It's interesting because this is a unique property and it's very rare in New York City to have a piece of land that has a kink in it. But this does give you an idea for how the original addition was trying to resolve the differences. There's an existing handrail on the property that's in the rear deck. Our intention is to match the scale and proportion for the proposed roof deck on the second floor. And as I mentioned earlier, we've cataloged all of the existing windows that are the transom, and we've scaled the proportion for the new windows to fit it. Just as a formality, there's no modifications to the front facade, which faces Sterling, and the zoning documents. Thank you for your time, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions on this one? It was a very clear presentation. Thank you. All right. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? All right. Noting that there isn't, I will turn it over to Gregory Kala to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. If you would like to speak on this item, please click the raise hand button now. Noting that we have one hand raised, that being Mary Shuford from the Prospect Heights Neighborhood Development Council. Mary Shuford, I've promoted you to panelist. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good morning again. My name is Mary Shuford from the Prospect Heights Neighborhood Development Corporation. As the architect noted, because of the location of the original lot, the original rear extension and backyard are at an angle to the building. The proposed modification is to expand the extension to adjoin the full width of the building. The existing fireplace and chimney will be removed and replaced by a repurposed window and transom. A new sliding door with repurposed transoms will be installed on the new infill wall of the extension. The existing door will be replaced by a repurposed window and transom. A new door will be added on the second level in the location of the existing center window, and a new enlarged window on the east side of the facade will be added to match the existing window on the west side. The existing rear deck railing and stairway at the parlor level will be maintained. A new matching black metal railing will be added to the top of the extension. The proposed modifications to the extension are modest and do not significantly impact the existing size and bulk of the extension. While they'll be visible from Butler Place, they are compatible with the character of existing extensions within the block in the historic district. PHE-NDC does not have any objection to this application. Thank you for considering this, our testimony.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 8 recommends approval, and I will bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Thank you. So again, supportive testimony. Is there anything you'd like to add before we begin our discussion? Thank you very much. It's nice to get a compliment for excellent staff. Okay, commissioners, let's begin our discussion. Commissioner Chapin, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Chen, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so this is an unusually shaped lot that kind of is on an angle. And so the rear extension also turns on an angle. And this is an application to sort of fill in the notch between those two pieces and add new windows and doors and to reuse existing stained glass transoms. So we'll begin our discussion. Commissioner Master, would you like to start this one?
Sure. I think I thought this was so cleverly done in terms of making use of the gap and then filling in the wedge shape and really making a big difference on the interior, but not really that visible from the rear, public, I guess, street. Yeah, overall, I think it was very well done. When I looked at the picture of the current view of the rear and then the proposed view, they're certainly different, and yet it's not, it's almost an improvement. So I can find it appropriate in terms of the new window openings. They make a lot of sense. The wedge gap is not that visible. And I think you're removing a chimney, which I think is almost an improvement. I think that the railings that you're adding to the roof deck are similar to the railings that exist and are appropriate. And then the reuse of the transom windows, I think, is clever and also, appropriate. So overall, I think they did a wonderful job with this renovation of the rear facade.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Jefferson.
In my time at LPC, I've never seen an axial shift like this, completely off axis, both of them. Geometry shifts is unique in the row. Filling in a triangle section creates more interior space. Removal of chimney, that's no longer necessary. Makes sense. I think it's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Goldblum.
I agree.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
Agreed, appropriate.
Okay, Commissioner Chen.
Nicely done.
Commissioner Chapin.
I agree.
And Commissioner Chu.
Agreed.
All right, so I think we're all in agreement. Commissioner Master, would you make the motion?
Sure. In the matter of LPC-25-02534, 286 Sterling Place in the Prospect Heights Historic District, a Romanesque Revival, Renaissance Revival style row house designed by Benjamin Dreisler, built in 1899. Application is to modify the rear extension. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Prospect Heights Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work at the rear facade will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features and will only be visible from Butler Place in the context of adjacent rear facades. That the 3 historic stained glass transoms to be removed will be salvaged and reused, thereby maintaining the significant architectural features at this facade. That the proposed addition is modest in scale and will fill in a narrow recess between the rear facade and rear extension and will not overwhelm the rear facade. That the beige finish stucco cladding at the addition will be consistent with the cladding at this rear facade, and the multi-light sliding door assembly and salvaged transoms will be in keeping with enlarged openings often found at the lower floors of rear facades of buildings of this type, style, and age, and will maintain a residential scale. That the new masonry openings at the end of the rear extension, featuring a 1/1 double hung window and salvaged stained glass transom, will match adjacent historic windows in terms of configuration and finish. That the railing at the roof of the rear extension will be simple and utilitarian in design and will be consistent with railings found at this rear facade and adjacent rear facades. And that the work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building or historic district.
Thank you. Commissioner Jefferson, would you second that motion?
So second.
Thank you. And John, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
8 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you very much. We'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 4, LPC 25-01433. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 5028, Lot 92, 25 Maple Street in the Prospect Leopards Gardens Historic District. This is a neo-Georgian style semi-detached house designed by George Lovenstein and built in 1922. And the application is to construct a rear yard addition and install a fence.
Please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Talisha Sainville. I am an architect, and I have been working with the owner on 25 Maple Street. So I'm here to present our proposal. How do I advance the slides?
Use the
Oh.
mouse, click on the
Use the
screen,
mouse.
and then you can use the arrow keys. There you go.
Perfect. Here we have the 1940s historic tax photo of 25 Maple Street. As you can see, it is a semi-detached home. It's a single-family home with a shared driveway with the other neighbor on the other side. This is the LPC Historic District map. This is an aerial photo showing you that 25 Maple Street is one of 12 homes on the block that are unique and different from the rest of the homes on the block. They were all constructed in the early 1920s, 1922. And as you can see here, 25 Maple Street is highlighted in yellow up at the top. And you can see that there are some other properties that have seemingly existing rear yard additions. These are photos of the existing front facade at 25 Maple Street, along with the driveway, and you can see the garage in the back. Here you'll see a plot plan of 25 Maple Street on the left, as well as 2 existing rear facade photos. And down at the bottom, you'll see an existing elevation of the rear of 25 Maple Street. So you can see that there is an existing stair enclosure as well as an existing alcove. So our proposal that I'm presenting to you today is to essentially extend this alcove in the back to the property line on the left, and in so doing to increase the amount of light that comes into that rear kitchen. The other part of the proposal, whoops. On the left-hand side, you'll see that there is an existing / demolition plan. On the right-hand side is our proposed plan for that extension of that existing rear alcove, as well as a rear yard deck. And a part of this proposal is we're proposing to add a cedar fence to the back. There's an existing CMU block wall at the rear lot line, and we're proposing to add a cedar fence on the 25 Maple Street side of the property. Here on the left-hand side, again, you'll find an existing / demolition rear yard facade elevation. And on the right-hand side is what we're proposing to change that rear extension to. Here is a detailed plan on the left-hand side of that rear yard work that we're here talking about today. In the middle, you'll find an existing as well as a proposed rear yard wall showing that cedar fence. Up at the top, you'll see the existing, an elevation of the existing CMU wall. So we're just proposing to add a cedar fence at the same height as the garage, which is also existing. And then on the right-hand side, you'll find a few pictures of what that actually looks like in the rear yard. Down at the bottom, you'll see a section of that rear yard fence that we're proposing. Here are two longitudinal sections. The top one is obviously showing is cut from the driveway side of the property, showing you what that rear yard extension will look like, the rear yard deck, as well as that fence at the lot line. On this page, you'll see on the left-hand side is an existing conditions from the property that's on the adjacent street, Lincoln Road, looking back at 25 Maple Street. So you can see, again, on the left-hand side, that a piece of our existing alcove does show up from that driveway. On the right-hand side picture, you'll see a rendering of what we're proposing essentially to put up there. It will be the same height as well as depth into the backyard as the existing alcove. Again, all we're proposing is to extend it to the property line to the left. Here is another rendering of what that view is like once we put in that cedar fence that we are proposing. And on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see just a wall section detailing what that new construction of that rear yard alcove would be. Oh, and these two pictures are photos that I took a couple of weeks ago. We constructed a mock-up of what that rear yard addition would actually look like in real life, and you can see it. The first picture is from about 150 feet away, and the second picture is straight down that driveway, so a little bit closer. So again, what we're proposing is an extension of that existing alcove, a new cedar fence in the back, as well as a rear yard deck. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions? All right, not seeing any questions. We'll see if we have any public testimony. And I'll note that there is no one in the hearing room to speak on this item, so I will turn it over to Gregory to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have one remote participant with their hand raised, that being Lucy Levine from the Historic Districts Council. Lucy Levine, I'm promoting you to panelist right now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. HDC finds the modest massing of this rear addition to be appropriate. However, the fenestration, materiality, and detailing seem unrelated to the main house. We ask LPC staff to work with the applicant to develop this design further to address this concern. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 9 was unable to provide a formal recommendation, but still requests that the commission considers this application. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Thank you. So would you like to respond to the testimony that we heard?
So the fenestration that we're proposing is actually in keeping with the fenestration at the second floor of the front of the house. We were trying to be a bit respectful, let's say, of a sort of original look for the house, but we're happy to revise it if the commission so deems that that be necessary.
They're multi-light casement windows, right?
Yeah,
And then the view
exactly.
is concealed by the fence. Okay.
Yes. I mean, originally we wanted to just do an entire glass enclosure, so.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, appreciate your being sensitive. All right. So commissioners, if there are no other questions, we'll move to our discussion. Okay. Commissioner Chu, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So move.
Thank you. Commissioner Master, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right. So this is work at the back of 25 Maple Street that involves enlarging an existing rear addition, one-story rear addition, to bring it to the property line on the left, and then to install a cedar fence at the back lot line. And this work would only be visible through the long driveway and rear yard of this building from Lincoln Road. And the applicant has provided views to show that amount of visibility. And primarily, you'll see the fence behind the other walls and fences, which largely obscures the addition. Commissioner Jefferson, would you like to start this one?
This is a really interesting kind of resolution to an existing addition, and it's resolved really quite elegantly, I thought, and quite handsome. And I where am I? So the rear yard addition I can appropriate, and the rear yard fence I thought was a nice touch out of cedar, so I can approve that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Goldblum?
I agree. I do think that the muntined windows kind of come out of left field for this house, and I don't think they're necessary, but I don't find them deeply objectionable. I personally think that the applicant's original idea of having it to be an all glass structure would probably be a better solution, just because of the scale of it and the relationship to the original house. It would read like a solarium or a greenhouse, which I think would be an improvement. I think the little bits of brick are just kind of fussy, but because of its limited visibility and its low position, I don't think it's a problem as is.
Thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg?
I find this appropriate. One thing I'd add is I think the fence over time will become less bright and fit in better, so I find this fine.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Chan?
Likewise, yeah, I find that appropriate.
Okay. Commissioner Chapin?
It's a modest addition and it'll be concealed by the fence, and I find it appropriate.
All right. Thank you. And Commissioner Chu?
I find it totally appropriate and very modest. I agree with Michael. It could have been all glass. I would just say right now the addition is essentially two windows. You could just put them together. That little brick thing between makes it fussier.
Okay. Commissioner Master?
Yeah, this is appropriate.
Okay. All right. And I think we have enough votes to approve it as is, but if the applicant does want to think about doing single light windows or eliminating that brick pier in between. Are you comfortable with the staff working with them afterwards to do that? Okay, but for now, we'll make a motion to approve it as is.
In the matter of LPC 25-01433, 25 Maple Street. Application is to construct a rear yard addition and fence. I note that the building style, scale, material, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historical character of the Prospect Lefferts Garden Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the proposed rear yard addition would only minimally be visible at a distance from the north through a driveway on Lincoln Road, that the one-story addition will be modest in scale and similar in height and depth to the other additions that exist within the block, that the simple massing, metal windows and doors, and brick cladding will be in keeping with the materiality, scale, and character of the secondary facades found within this block and this historic district, that the proposed wooden fence will not be taller than the existing garage wall or other surrounding fences on the block, and will be typical in terms of material and finish. The proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historical character of the building and the Prospect Leffert Garden Historic District.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum, would you second that motion?
Second.
John?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
8 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
All right, so that's approved. Thank you. And if you do want to consider not doing the muntins or eliminating that brick pier, making it a little glassier, you can work with the staff on that. All right, thanks. Oh, great. That's great. Nice to hear. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll now move to public hearing item number 5, LPC 24-06660. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, block 5029, lot 57, 203 Maple Street in the Prospect Lefferts Garden Historic District. This is a neo-Renaissance style row house built circa 1909 to 10, and the application is to replace windows.
Okay. Good morning, commissioners. Brian Blazak, preservation staff. So the subject property is 203 Maple Street. It's in the center of this photograph. So as Corey said, this is an application and it's to replace stained glass windows at the basement level. Here you can see the view from the sidewalk, a little bit hard to see from the exterior. So the property is located on the north side of Maple Street between Rogers and Bedford Avenues. This is part of a row of neo-Renaissance style row houses built circa 1909 to 1910. There are no other stained glass windows at the basement level anywhere in the row, as shown in photographs, and also made a site visit to confirm that. So while it may be hard to see up on your screen, but in the 1940 tax photo, as well as the designation photograph from, I believe, 1979, the existing windows appear to be present in both photos. Just another photo of the row, and some close-up photos of the windows from the exterior. And these show that the windows are deteriorated in nature. And I think the next couple slides continue to show that as well. Some close-up views from the exterior. So, and then from the interior, you can see the current conditions and the deteriorated nature of the windows and haphazard state of the windows is apparent. There's some faux diamond panes that were applied. You can see them just to the right of the center window, and they were applied to some of the panes, and they were found by the owner to be easily removable once they actually went and inspected it. And so generally we're pretty sure that these windows are not original to the building. I think we can be confident of that. And again, some additional close-up photos of this is on the left side of the interior, just showing that the windows are broken. Some of them there's some cracking in some of the panes, and also that various repairs have been performed over the years, some with better results than others, and just different close-ups of the 3 windows at the basement. And then these are just details of the proposed windows. And some close-up photos from the exterior of other basement windows in the block. And again, this is just showing that 205 and 209 are on the same row. 208 is across the street on the right there. So it's a different row, but kind of a similar style. But there are no stained glass present anywhere on the block, either of the rows. And just the last, that this is considered a habitable space, a basement. It's not a cellar. So the building code does require operable windows to be in compliance with light and air requirements, which the current windows do not provide. And so the owner is here if you have any further questions on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brian. All right. Are there any questions? Yes, Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, my only question is, I think the windows need to be replaced. This row of buildings, is there any consistency? I imagine a lot of the windows have been replaced prior to designation, and I'm looking for whatever we approve here may be something we want to see other people do as they replace windows. So the question is, it looks like the 2 next to you are completely different from each other as well as yours. So
you could just use the arrow key.
Staff might, be better.
Okay. Hi, I'm Lee Solomon. I'm one of the homeowners. Thank you for your consideration today. So that was a question I had as well. I'm not sure which way to go here with the PowerPoint, but 201 Maple, the center window to me appears original. And that is what I modeled the design on, and that's right next door. The other 2 windows, they didn't look the same. And I agree with you that many replacements were made. I didn't do the research to see, all of the originals. I just want to point out 208 Maple across the street. They had removed their landmarks permit, but they had a landmarks permit for the windows that you see down there with the 3 panes. That is something you occasionally do see in similar style homes, both on Maple and around the corner on Midwood. Very rarely, but sometimes you do see that.
Okay, and the window at 201 is a single pane window?
It's a single pane window, the center one, yeah. But there have been many, non-original looking modifications on the road, for sure.
Understood.
But I haven't seen anything like that stained glass. I just want to say that it's, in my mind, it really does detract from the integrity of the block. To me, I don't want to get too poetic, but to me, the special nature of this block is its consistency, and the rhythm is ruined to whatever degree that you see those windows by the pattern just not relating to anything else.
Okay, thank
I have
you.
a question.
Yes, Commissioner Chu.
Is the window guard original, and is that going to be retained?
I believe it's original, and definitely I'm going to retain it. Yeah.
And what is your color proposal for the window?
We had replaced, I'm not familiar with this PowerPoint stuff. So we had replaced the windows at staff level. And I think they're in the photos. So we were going to just copy the same color that had been approved for those windows. I believe it's white tie by Farrow and Ball. Yeah, we're going to retain the original, what's that called?
Brick mold.
Brick mold, thank you. Yeah.
And at the ground floor, the brick mold is being retained?
Yes. So we're using the same window company. It's a company called Airflow. It's a multi-generational Brooklyn-based business that is hand making the windows. They made those first floor and second floor windows as well and installed them.
Okay, great. Yeah, good to know. All right. Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, let's see if we have any public testimony. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Noting that there isn't, I will turn it over to Gregory Kala to see if we have any remote participants.
Chair Carroll, I do not see any remote participants with their hands raised. If you would like to speak on this item, please click the raise hand button now. Okay, noting that I do not see any hands raised, I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 9 was unable to provide a formal recommendation, but still requests that the commission considers this application. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
All right. Okay, so we don't have any testimony on this item. Commissioner, commissioners, are there any other final questions? Okay, so let's move to our discussion. Commissioner Master, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Jefferson, would you second that motion?
So second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so this is an application to replace the basement level windows. The staff has already approved window replacement on the upper floors, and so the proposal is to replace this leaded glass, stained glass, which doesn't appear anywhere else in the row, with a new single pane sash with retaining the existing brick mold, which is modeled on another window at 201 Maple, which the applicant believes may be the original window, and certainly would have the proportions of kind of half of a double hung sash, and then would be painted to match the windows above. Commissioner Chapin, would you start this one?
Yeah, sure. I don't have any problem with the replacement of these windows. They're obviously not, original. And I think that, and it clearly needs to be done. My only question, as I said earlier, was just that whatever we approve here should be something throughout the row, ideally, as they're replaced in other locations. So I'm fine with this proposal.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Chu?
Appropriate.
Commissioner Master?
Appropriate.
Commissioner, everybody agree? No disagreements or other comments? Okay, so I think Commissioner Chapin will make the motion, please.
Sure.
Thanks.
The matter of certificate of appropriateness, Borough of Brooklyn, LPC 24-06660, 203 Maple Street, Prospect Lefferts Gardens Historic District, a neo-Renaissance style row house built in circa 1909 to 1910. Application is to replace windows. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Prospect Lefferts Gardens Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the existing stained glass windows at the cellar floor are not original to the building, consistent with its style, or found elsewhere in the row, that the existing windows are not unique, representative of fine craftsmanship, or part of a larger redesign of the facade, and that the proposed windows will match the original windows in terms of configuration, operation, details, and finish, and will unify the fenestration of the facade and the row, and the proposed work will not diminish the special architectural and historic character of the building and the historic district.
Thank you. Commissioner Chu, would you second that motion?
I second that.
Thank you. John, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
8 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
All right, that's approved. Thank you very much. And we'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 6, LPC 25-02645. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Queens, Block 78, Lot 21. 2143 45th Avenue in the Hunters Point Historic District. This is an Italianate style row house designed by Spencer Root and John Rust and built in the 1870s. The application is to replace windows.
Good morning, Dina Posner, Preservation Staff, presenting this application for 21-43 45th Avenue. And the applicant is also here to answer any questions. The scope of the application is to replace the windows on the front facade, and the slide shows the location within the historic district as well as existing condition front facade photo. And some additional front facade photos. The existing windows are modern 2/2 windows. And some close-up photos. The existing windows have a dark green finish, and the existing basement security grills would be retained. The 1940s tax photo is in the center of this slide, and the neighboring property is in the left-hand photo. You can see that the stoop was removed prior to the 1940s, but was later reconstructed pursuant to a 1995 LPC permit. And the tax photo shows the historic 2/2 window configuration for this row of buildings. And the right-hand photo is the designation photo from about 1968. And this shows the existing and proposed front elevations. The new aluminum clad wood 2/2 double hung windows are proposed. These meet LPC staff level rules in all areas except for materials, as solid wood windows would be required for multi-light windows at staff level. And this slide shows close-up of the existing and proposed elevations. And the next several slides show information about the aluminum clad wood construction, including the existing and proposed section drawings. So the vertical section and the horizontal or jam sections. The applicant is proposing to maintain the dark green exterior painted finish, and the windows will feature simulated divided light muntins and a profiled aluminum brick mold. And the slide shows the variety of existing 2/2 windows that exist at this row. And the following two slides show examples of nearby commission approvals. At 174 Bergen, actually aluminum windows were proposed, and the commission approved aluminum clad wood windows for these multi-light windows in lieu of aluminum. And at 64 South Portland Avenue, the commission approved aluminum clad wood windows for the multi-light windows. And that concludes the presentation. The applicant is here for any questions.
Do we have any questions? Okay. All right. Not seeing any questions, we'll move to public testimony and come back to you. And I'll note that there is no one in the hearing room to speak on this item. So I will turn it over to Gregory Kala to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. There are no remote participants with their hands raised. If you would like to speak on this item, please click the raise hand button now. Noting there are still no hands raised, so I will state for the record that Queens Community Board 2 recommends approval, and I will bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
All right. Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to say before we move to our discussion? Okay. Great. All right. So if there are no questions, we'll go ahead and move to discussion. Commissioner Chu, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Master, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed. And so this application is before us today for our consideration of the change in material. The windows otherwise meet the staff level rules in terms of the matching the historic configuration, profiles, dimensions, and details. And as you may know, the rules allow the staff to approve built aluminum clad windows in row houses that historically had 1/1 double hung windows, but they don't yet allow for the staff to do it where there were historically multi-light windows. But the applicant has shown us a number of examples where we've approved aluminum clad windows on row houses that historically had 2/2 windows. So we'll begin our discussion. Commissioner Goldblum.
Thank you. I think that I've always been puzzled by the rule that that conflates aluminum windows with aluminum clad wood windows. And I know where it comes from. Material is the outermost material. But in fact, they're really two different things. And I think that our goals in terms of materiality control have to do with issues of craft and original intent and a number of other things that are, that all kind of come together on top of aesthetics. Clearly from aesthetics, these are fine. And I think that's a totally appropriate application. But the only reason I go into it is that I think that it's really an opportunity for us to think more deeply on a kind of staff rules level, to put it on that long and always growing list of things to consider for rule changes down the road, that a distinction be made between wood-clad, metal-clad wood windows and aluminum windows that are kind of hollow section extruded aluminum. I personally think that the rule that allows hollow aluminum section windows for 1/1s is not a great rule, but I think that these are fine. I don't see any. I think that one could consider exempting that in certain cases where the windows are old, maybe, I don't know, for federal buildings, or if there's some compelling kind of aesthetic reason for us not to use them, or if there's a craft-based issue. I can't imagine it, but I think that staff and you could think about it down the road. But I think for now, this is fine.
Right. And I think we may have a way to do that because we also identify and have a definition for special windows, which are windows that have an exceptional craftsmanship or
I think of like
details.
that building on crap, I thought the Friends Meeting House, something like that has these amazing wood windows, or there are cases where you want to really go out for it, but I don't think that as a rule we need to hold to that. Cows out of the barn.
Got it. Great. Okay, Commissioner Ginsburg.
I agree with Commissioner Goldblum. I would add that for more than 2 or 3 feet, you probably can't tell the difference. And the advantage of the aluminum is they're much lower maintenance, so they're more likely to look good in 10, 15, 20 years than the straight wood. And so I think the aluminum clad, yeah, not a full, yeah. Thank you for that correction, Stephen. So I find this totally appropriate.
Thank you, Commissioner Chen.
Yeah, something to think about for the future change of rules.
Great. Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, I was going to raise the same point that Michael did, and that the staff should be able to approve these except in the case of individual landmarks or some other cases that we might define, to exclude. But most of the time, this is, there's no reason not for us not to approve them, and therefore the staff should be able to as well.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Chu.
Appropriate.
Commissioner Master.
Yeah, appropriate.
And Commissioner Jefferson. Great. Thank you all for your comments. And I think that Corey and team will be thinking about that for the future. Commissioner Goldblum, would you make the motion?
Sure. Regarding 21-43 45th Avenue, Hunters Point Historic District, the applications to replace the windows, I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Hunters Point Historic District, and I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work will not change or eliminate any significant architectural features. The proposed windows will match the historic windows in terms of configuration, operation, details, and finish. But the change in material from wood to metal-clad wood will not be discernible from the street, and that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building or the historic district.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Jefferson, would you second that motion?
Second.
Great. John.
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin.
Aye.
Commissioner Chen.
Aye.
Commissioner Chu.
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg. Aye. Commissioner Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
In favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
That's approved. Thank you. We'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 7, LPC 25-03611. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 591, Lot 1, 137 Waverly Place in the Greenwich Village Historic District. This is a federal-style row house with added neo-Gothic details designed by Thomas Cumming, built in 1829. The application is to install a stoop gate.
Hi. My name is Michelle Cohen. I'm the owner of 137 Waverly Place. And I have full respect for this process. I'm happy to be an owner in the village. I click down. Click to join audio. Okay. This is the location. It is between 6th Avenue and Gay Street. We are just finishing up a complete interior restoration with no impact to the exterior. Yeah, these are the historical photographs. We are number 137. We are, the subway station is right on the corner of 6th Avenue and Waverly Place. We have been contending with some serious security problems, some drug-related crime. It's been pretty sad to watch. And there was initially, when we purchased the property, a gate at the stoop, and they had to remove it because of a violation. I guess they had never gotten, the prior owners had never gotten the proper approvals. It got removed, and we immediately started seeing what was taking place. A lot of overdosing and other things that have been going on in the area were taking place. So we put up a construction barricade, which seemed to really work for a stretch of time, at which point the time had come to remove that barricade, and that kind of activity continued up until very recently. I had already begun the process with Edith and Anu, and we had situation after situation, one of which took EMS and the NYPD about 4 hours to remove someone who didn't belong there. Long and short, once I started this process and we were feeling really vulnerable, we put something temporary based on a sketch that I had presented. It is fully and utterly a temporary solution so that we wouldn't be barricaded in. It does open and close. It is not what I want. I want your input. I want it to be appropriate to the history of the building, which I adore. And I would love your input on evaluating what is correct, what exists, and what to match to. So next. These are the photographs that were requested. This is the context of the block. I love my building. I think it looks beautiful. That it's between Gay Street, which is also been a prime hotspot for this kind of activity. So we would like to install a stoop gate. We had initially proposed a drawing, which is on the following slide, statement regarding appropriateness of proposed work, scope of work. We would like it to be consistent with many precedential sites. Design will be consistent with existing aesthetics, existing historical elements, will remain unimpaired. Promotes historic site preservation, modest in scope, and part of a highly preservative restoration efforts. This is the temporary stoop gate, which we are using only as security for now. We know it is not appropriate. We know it's not going to be what we want. It did not even match the sketch, and we will likely need to work with a new fabricator. I got a list of fabricators from Anu and Edith, and we would like it to be as appropriate as possible while doing what it needs to do for security. this temporary measure has served to resolve our temporary situation, which is great news. We don't have any of the activity that we were having. So in presenting this to you, it's to show what is there now. Just it's been, I think, 2 or 3 weeks as this temporary measure, so we can go in and out until we get the input that we need. Tell us what you're seeing that exists that should be what we fabricate. And I would love to actually use one of your fabricators that have had success in the past. This will now go through other precedents that of things that you have approved. 79 Christopher Street, 12 to 14 Minetta Street, 451 Hudson Street, 119 Waverly Place, 17 Barrow. This one at, sorry, my screen's 138 Waverly is right across the street. And 132 West 4th Street. 17 Grove Street, 133 West 4th Street. I'm open to any input for the correct gate, so we could, the current temporary measure is not even welded to the sides. It's just literally there to keep the stoop and ourselves safe until we can get through this process.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, do we have any questions on this one? All right. Not seeing any right now. We might have some more later. And we'll move to public testimony and we'll come back to you. And I'll note that there is no one in the hearing room to speak on this item, so I will turn it over to Gregory Kala to take us through our remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have a couple of hands raised in our attendees list. The first we'll be hearing from is Chloe Gregoire from Village Preservation. Chloe Gregoire, I've promoted you to panelist. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good day, Commissioners. My name is Chloe Gregoire, and I'm speaking on behalf of Village Preservation. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Village Preservation is sympathetic to the need for a stoop gate at this location. However, we are concerned that the applicants have installed the gate without approval and without following the proper public hearing procedures. It is a shame that they did not wait for the input and approval before fabricating the gate. We find the current gate with its tabular construction to be at odds with the existing historic ironwork and iron gate in the same location and of a similar size, but with a frame and details that better reflect the existing surrounding ironwork would be suitable here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from Christina Conroy from the Victorian Society, New York. Christina Conroy, I've promoted you to panelist. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Okay, for some reason, I can't start my video. Okay, then I shall just talk. Weird.
Well, we can hear you, so please go ahead.
Okay, so good morning, Commissioners. I'm Christina Conroy for the Victorian Society in New York. Now, the Victorian Society has testified against stoop gates at many buildings in historic districts, and we do not support this proposal to add a stoop gate to a circa 1829 row house. This very old federal-style brick building has a gracious and welcoming entry of brownstone steps and period-appropriate ironwork. It is our opinion that stoop gates detract from the appearance of historic streetscapes. They change the stoop's traditional role of providing a semi-private transition zone, separating the private house from the public street. The design of this one is especially unfortunate as the end posts crowd the lovely cast iron newels. It is also apparent that by approving these gates on a regular basis, the commission is virtually guaranteeing that they will become ubiquitous. As the percentage of ungated stoops becomes smaller, owners of those houses will be more and more incentivized to install gates themselves, especially knowing the Landmarks Commission will not stand in the way. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from Lucy Levine from the Historic Districts Council. Lucy Levine, I promoted you to panelist. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. HDC is also opposed to stoop gates in general because they are anti-urban. And when we thought that this one was the one that was being fully proposed, hearing the applicant speak, I understand that's not the case at this point, but when we thought that was the case, we are opposed to this one in particular because it does not relate sufficiently to the existing ironwork. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And next up, we'll be hearing from Michael Cohen.
I think he's the applicant, so we'll come back to him afterwards.
Okay. So Michael Cohen, will be hearing from you after testimony. I do not see any further hands raised, so I will note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 2 recommends denial of the legalization of the existing gate and that a new design respecting the existing delicate ironwork and the usual standards for gates in the district be presented to a public meeting. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Thank you. Okay, now I know that I'd like to ask the applicants if they'd like to speak, and I know that Michael Cohen is on Zoom, so I think if Michael Cohen, if you'd like to go ahead and start, we can hear from you.
Sure.
And then, yeah.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. As my wife Michelle stated, we value your time and the service you provide to the city and all the preservative efforts you have marshaled over the years. This proposal, I'd note, actually serves to preserve the historic nature of the site. We have not asked LPC to touch really anything of historical value. We're not looking to erect anything new. That is our philosophy. Unlike the other applicants today, we're not adding additions. We're not doing any of that. We came to this project with that in mind. However, we have young children. My daughters, I have two daughters. I'll note the 6 precincts crime statistics this year are staggering. You know, there's sexual assault. There's 8 rapes already in the district. People are not, so you need to have basic modicum of protection. I just want to add that for the record because I don't think Ms. Conroy and Ms. Levine can speak to that. And you know, a measure that's simple and respectful is all we're asking. We had a gentleman who defecated and urinated on the stoop and took hours to remove. I can't have my children around that. And the Greenwich Village in 1829 did not have rampant crime. And if it did, this would be the norm. And I think people in that era would have had basic measures of protection. We are not asking to rip down the railings. We're not asking to change any of the lintels or anything you see. So I just respectfully add the context of the human sort of element of this, which some of the preservation constituents that have spoken have not spoken to. Children should not be barred from living in such an area. We think families should be in the village, but they need to have some basic security. That is all I have.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add? Just come up to the microphone. So just because the people on Zoom can't hear you unless you're at the microphone.
As a designer and one who has always dreamed of owning in the village, I am aware that this gate is not the one that I want. It just was the least expensive solution that let the people inside the house exit and come back in until we could get through this process and get a gate we're all proud of.
Okay. All right, commissioners, if there are no final questions, we'll move to close the hearing and begin our discussion. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you make that motion? Thank you. Commissioner Chen, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the hearing is closed, and as you know, we've had a long history of evaluating gates at the bottom of stoops, and in the last several years or more, we have approved a number of them in this particular historic district when the row houses are, well, when the house is not part of a continuous row of stoops, and where there is more variety in the streetscape. It's a one-off house, and particularly if it's around the corner from a commercial thoroughfare where there's a lot of commercial activity. And so in this case, this is around the corner from or on the same side street as the Waverly Diner. There's commercial activity on the other end of the block. So in many ways, the variety on this block is similar to other instances where we've approved a gate at the base of the stoop. However, as we've heard also in testimony, when we do approve gates, we do look at the design. The applicant has said they are welcoming input on design. So I think we'll have a conversation about both the presence of the gate and then the design of the gate. So Commissioner Chu, would you like to start this one?
Sure. So we definitely have been seeing more of these applications for gates, and I appreciate your comment, Sarah, about the context, because as we look at every proposal, it's really a case-by-case situation, and this neighborhood is quite robust in its activity and late-night crowds, so I can understand the applicant's concern. But to that, the existing building and its historic design, obviously the gate is not the intent of a welcoming stoop stair. And so I do believe that we need to look at the design of the stair to make it minimal and less of a really a barrier at the stair stoop point. So to that, I do think that for the design itself, the newel posts, which are significant on the sides, should be the prominent element. And as you mentioned, this is not the final design, but a final design to me would retain those as prominent elements. The member sizing seems extreme here, and the height is too much. I would bring them down to the height maximum to the newel post height, and try to work with a fabricator to get the verticals in the frame smaller and more hidden in terms of their location in relation to those posts. The members of the existing gate on the side off the basement windows are minimum and square, I think, in section. That could be done on the frame and the post to not detract or to draw undue attention to itself, which I feel like it does right now. So height and member sizing, placement of the posts are crucial to getting this to feel less obstructive.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Master?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm very sympathetic to the applicant of everything that they've gone through and the security issues. I think a stoop gate in this situation with the streetscape is appropriate. The only question is, what is the style and the height? And in that case, I would agree with Stephen that the height should probably be lowered. And then in terms of the design, I will leave it up to the other commissioners and perhaps staff to work out what's appropriate.
Thank you. Commissioner Jefferson?
I agree, but this simple building and a gate that quite ornate and dominant, if that's the concept that they're looking for, and they can prove to me that that exists on this block, I can accept it. But right now it's extremely ornate. I mean, it's beyond, it's like a musical score in a film that dominates the film. Right? So this should be rethought.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum?
I think I doubt I would be the only person to say that these things are very unfortunate, but they're unfortunate because of an unfortunate situation. And that situation is quite real. I think about it kind of like roll down metal gates. Roll down metal gates used to be ubiquitous in New York, and they were horrible. And thank God we've transcended that moment. And I hope that we can transcend this moment and and find a time very soon when we will feel comfortable not approving these or requiring that they be removed because the moment has passed. But unfortunately, we're not in that moment right now. So I think that Stephen's comments are fine, and I'm sure they can work with staff to come up with something that's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg?
I agree. It's unfortunate that this is a necessity of today's life, but it is. And I agree with Stephen's comments, and I think just using the fencing around there as a model, working with staff, they can come up with something appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Chen?
Yeah, I agree with the commissioner's comments, including Commissioner Chu and Master.
Thank you. Commissioner Chapin?
Yeah, well, I've seen a lot of these applications over time, and in this case, first of all, I agree with regard to the design. It's essential that it relate better to the newel posts. And I would suggest to the existing ironwork, actually, but Commissioner Chu's general comments, I certainly agree with. I think what's important about these stoop gates is that they not in any way obscure the facade or draw undue attention to themselves. But I'm beginning myself to feel like this is almost a layer of evolution that's happening with stoops. Of course, it could be easily reversed if there were no longer a need for a stoop gate. But we see changes over time caused by use issues, and this may ultimately be one of them. In any event, in this case, I think what needs to be done is that it better comport with the streetscape and specifically with the ironwork and newel posts on this particular building.
Okay. All right. So I think we're all in agreement that in this particular case, this singular house on this streetscape, which has a lot of variety, that a gate would be appropriate, but that they really need to restudy the height, the design, the member sizing and placement of the posts. And so we'll allow them to do that with the staff. If Commissioner Chu, if you can make that motion.
The case of LPC 25-03611, 137 Waverly Place, Greenwich Village Historic District, a federal style row house with added neo-Greek details designed by Thomas Cumming and built in 1829. The application is to install a stoop gate. And note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of Greenwich Village Historic District. Also note the work has been completed. I recommend approval with modification of the current proposed design in terms of height of the gate, reduction and location of newel posts, and the framing and post sizing in section need to be studied and reviewed with staff. With that, also that the work will not alter, damage, or destroy any significant architectural features. That the building's location between busy commercial thoroughfares has led to trespassing issues and safety concerns. That the gate is attached to non-historic ironwork and the stoop and easily reversible. The design of the black finished metal gate should match the picket design of historic stoop railing and harmonizes with other ironwork at the building. And that the streetscape features a variety of areaway and entrance conditions, including other gates and fences. Therefore, the presence of a stoop gate will not diminish the relationship of this building to other buildings on the block or relationship of the stoop to the sidewalk.
Okay. Commissioner Master, would you second that motion?
Second.
John, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Jefferson, Commissioner Master.
Aye.
8 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
That's approved. Thank you very much. Please continue to work with the staff.
All right, we're going to make a schedule change because we are quite a bit ahead of schedule. So we're going to be bringing the public meeting item up now, and we'll resume the hearing items after that. So this is public meeting item number 1, LPC 25-05195. This is an application for an amendment. It's in the Borough of the Bronx, Block 2462, Lot 1, 1040 Grand Concourse in the Grand Concourse Historic District. This is a museum building originally built as a synagogue and community hall designed by Simon B. Zelnick and built in 1961, later altered and expanded by Castro Blanco, Piscianeri and Associates in 1988. The application is to amend an LPC approval to demolish, alter, and redesign portions of the building and site.
Hey, Commissioners, the applicants have entered the hearing via Zoom. Ruya, I'm going to give you control of the presentation. Please just click on your screen and then you can advance the slides using your arrow keys or your mouse. The presenters may begin after they open the proceedings.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Abby. Okay, so we'll make a motion to open the proceedings so the applicants can present. Commissioner Chen, would you make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you second that
Second.
motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the applicants may begin.
Hey, everyone. My name is Zach Aders. I'm a vice president here at the New York City Economic Development Corporation, who's overseeing the design and construction of this project. And it's great to be back here for the Bronx Museum of the Arts project. As some of you may remember, we last presented at LPC in April of 2023. And since then, we have begun demolition of the museum's south wing. And the condition of the brick that we exposed, which we intended to use as the new facade, is very different than anticipated based on the historical photos that we went off of, the drawings and probes that we did during design. So this different condition has required us to pursue minor changes to the previously approved design. Our architect, Marvel, will present an elegant solution to work with this difficult, unforeseen condition to maintain the original design concept and honor the landmarked district in a solution that we feel is very appropriate to, especially in regards to the renovation that we're doing. So the Bronx Museum is a significant cultural landmark, as we all know, and many of the community are eagerly anticipating its opening. We hope to receive approval and keep construction moving along on budget and on schedule. And with that, I'll hand it over to Marvel, who will be presenting the revised proposal.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Roja Bai, architect at Marvel. Good morning, Commissioners of Landmark Preservation Commission. I just want to, before we jump into the design updates, I just want to give a quick refresh of what we landed on since last time we speak. So we're tasked to design a new prominent entrance and lobby space at the corner of Grand Concourse and 165th Street. Our design concept is to review the history of the building, removing some of the existing finish and staining the existing masonry wall with the same beige gray colors across the entire campus to unify the campus and make the building work as one cohesive museum. As you can see here on this page, this is the south wall of the north wing. Same thing we're doing on the 165th Street, and where we are renovating and replacing the existing windows. And to mention in this design, we're using solid metal panels in between the windows. That's the original design. The idea of preserving the masonry texture and language, echoing back to the original synagogue building. As you can see here on the left is the existing synagogue building. The facade is using brick, and we can also see this brick throughout the building. And on the top right photo, you can see a snippet of the existing north wing, the block wall texture with the pattern. This is also consistent within the context, we're situated in an area that surrounded with a lot of buildings with brick textures. This is also the original design. So fast forward a few months, we started demolition and we removed the existing metal panels and reviewed the existing finish that's consists of a series of different blocks. As you can see on the picture on the page right, we have this 2 bands of CMU in the middle below the first and second floor windows, as well as a variety of different colors of the bricks. We have the tan face brick and we have red bricks and we have some gray bricks on top. What we also discovered is the existing structure. The existing steel columns that were wrapped in bricks on 3 sides on the interior and metal cover on the exterior. The location of those columns are further into the masonry wall than we originally expected. Their location conflict with the ribbon window design and will break the ribbon window layout. So we have to figure out a new design of the window layout to work around the existing structure. Here is a quick diagram of what I mean by breaking the ribbon window language. As you can see, the pink dash line here is at the location of the existing columns. Here are some pictures of those columns. As you can see, wrapped in brick on the interior side, and they're half buried into the existing masonry wall, and the existing window, as you can see, they are projected out of the brick surface. This brings us to our updated design. Some design changes that we're making. Instead of 5 window bays, we're doing 4 to follow the existing structure and to stay truthful to the existing building. And we're also dividing each window opening into 4 lights instead of 3 lights to have, to work with the opening with a little bit more in a more balanced way. Another thing that we're doing is to replace the metal panel in between the openings with infill bricks. The reason that we're doing this is that we think, I don't know whether I can zoom on this, we think the ribbon window work with the existing band of CMU is dividing this elevation into different stripes. And we think infilling bricks is consistent and will create a more cohesive elevation and to have a field of bricks instead of different stripes of different bricks. And we believe this is a cleaner solution and will reduce the disconnection between different bricks, colors, and textures. We are going to stay with what we originally proposed, which is to stain those bricks with a consistent color while preserving the texture and the building's archaeology. Here is a view from the sidewalk when you're approaching the corner. As you can see, we're also adding a frame around the window opening to create a cleaner line and to capture the rough existing brick edge and to create like a more crisp look. And also this will improve the window's water tightness and performance. We have done a series of mock-ups to the existing bricks. As you can see on the left, is a mock-up to the south wall of the north wing. And on the right is a mock-up on the 165th bricks. We are doing the stain on top of different bricks to capture all of the conditions. As I mentioned on this presentation, as Note said, the color is not final. We're still working on getting the right colors that better represent the color that we're showing in the renderings. But as you can see, the stain to the brick allows the texture and the patterns to pass through while giving it a uniform colors. Lastly, I just want to bring up this diagram really quick. This is a diagram we show in the previous presentations. All of the blue area that you can see are the existing bricks wall or like block walls that we are rebuilding. Most of them are in the exterior, some of them are in our interior space. And we're using the same language of staining them the same colors and infilling all of the existing opening with bricks. We believe this is a cohesive and consistent language that we're doing throughout the project, and this will create the feeling of a unified, cohesive museum when people approaching and entering the space.
Thank you very much. Do you have a few more slides?
No, this is all we have to present, and we're happy to hear Commissioner's thoughts, and we're here to answer any questions. Thank
All
you.
right, great. Thank you. All right, we do have some questions. Commissioner Goldblum.
Okay, so you said on this elevation that you have up now, some of the material, the facing material, is going to be existing concrete block. Some is going to be red brick. Some is going to be the old original gray brick. Is that right? Am I getting that right?
Yes.
And the intention is not to face it or change it, but just to apply the stain over it as is. Is that right?
Yes.
So that what you'll see at the end is pretty much what you showed in your mock-up, which is a coat of gray coloring over a heterogeneous, let's say, substrate. That's the intention?
Yes, and we think this will, it's just showcase of the building's history while providing a unified exterior.
Okay. How does it showcase the building's history?
I can jump in really quick. So this building, as we know, has been pieced together over several iterations from when it was a synagogue to an art museum. And there's evidence of these different brick types that were shown in the photo earlier on that we uncovered. And so we were presented with this difficult situation with all these different brick types. However, when we were looking at it, there is sort of enough difference across the front of the entire face of the facade that gives it sort of like a rough field. And so we thought it could be a really interesting and in a way to preserve the history, to be able to see that those different iterations that the building has gone through, but as Roja said, in a aesthetically cohesive way. And then by having these window edges popping out a little bit more, that does help us with the details and cleanliness of it and waterproofing, but also kind of sets apart the new from the old a little bit more. And so we see this as a rough field with which these more hard and clean edged windows are sitting within. So yeah, that kind of wraps up the way in which we want to still communicate the history while having some cohesion.
Okay. When we had a presentation on another project a few months or years ago about the same staining product, I assume it's a similar kind of product. It was noted at that time that it required a certain amount of maintenance, that it doesn't last forever. It needs to be redone every once in a while. Is that the case with the material that you're proposing here as well?
Marvel, can you please advise on that?
Yeah, I can answer that. Ania Ramirez here for the record from Marvel. We do have specs from the material, and currently we don't have any anticipation of having to do any retouching, at least in a 10-year span.
And how's this in terms of graffiti?
It is cleanable, and of course you can add another layer of it.
Yeah, we actually see that as a positive with this solution. In the in that this is a rough field, and this museum in particular, we all know it's a free museum, operates on limited budgets, and always, like many similar institutions, have challenges with maintenance. And we actually see this as a very easy way to accommodate lower capacity maintenance.
Last question. The original design for this wing of the original synagogue, it had the strip windows going all the way across, didn't it? Or did it have brick piers like you're building in now?
It did, but it had what we believe to be metal panels.
It had metal panels.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Commissioner
quick one.
Jefferson.
So the concept, the story is that the existing facades that you're coating will tell the story of the changes of these facades over the last 50 years. Is that the story you're telling?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Chu. Yes, that's right.
No, it's the same color as
Same color.
proposed, and that was already approved on this building we're looking at now. This is really just about, because we didn't know there would be concrete blocks kind of exposed, and that, that wasn't part of the original
And the elevation
concept and
change for
presentation. And then there's changes with windows due to the columns.
Yes.
All right.
If I may,
Yes.
can we see the elevation version? We don't have control of the presentation anymore. Thank you.
Does this slide work for you? Slide 11?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. All right. So, commissioners, if there are no other questions, we will move to our discussion. And so this is an amendment to a previously approved application to redesign, and particularly at the corner, the frontage for the Bronx Museum of the Arts. This is a really seen as a really important project for not only the Bronx, but also for New York City. The museum had moved into these buildings in 1982, but the attempt here is really to do a very welcoming and inviting modernization of the campus to really make it a destination and bring people not only from the Bronx, but all over the city and the country to come to this location in the Bronx. And so it's a really important project, and we acknowledged that in our original review. We also noted that the existing building, which consists of the former synagogue and community house, is a non-contributing building within the historic district, and we approved actually replacing the later atrium addition with this new corner piece that would be much more engaging and welcoming from the street. The building around the corner, which is also part of the museum, was a later design by Architectonica, and that actually is given a style in the designation report. But we talked about when we originally reviewed this, how these three discrete pieces would read together. And so the color scheme was very important to tying the campus together and sort of unifying it as an entity, while you have sort of these three different distinct parts to it. And so the applicant is back today with a revision really in response to field conditions that were uncovered during the work. They're in mid-process right now and anxious to move along. So what has been discovered underneath and we've heard from the applicant about the columns in the CMU block. So they are proposing to coat the facade in the same color that was previously approved, and make these modifications to the windows. So Commissioner Goldblum, would you like to start?
Sure. Let me say up front, this is a very important project. And I'm grateful personally to the EDC for funding it and for sponsoring it. I'm grateful to Marvel, which is an excellent firm that does beautiful work. I did not support this project when it was proposed. I still don't support it, and I don't think it's appropriate to the district. I wish it well, and I hope it comes out really great, and I'm sure I'll go when it's done. But I do not personally think that it's appropriate. I was in the minority at the time, and I'll probably be in the minority today, and that's okay. When one of my considerations in finding it inappropriate at the outset was, I felt that the application of the gray paint did not really unify the project as it's experienced and covered over a detail of the Architectonica project that was intentional and designed and meant to be seen in concert with a lower adjunct that is not being modified. So I did not think that the idea of painting a bunch of masonry was a really great idea. And now we're being asked to paint an even greater bunch of masonry, and not even a nice bunch of masonry, but a junkyard. And the sample that was shown, I think, is very representative. Maybe we could switch to the image of the sample, where you have 3 different kinds of brick, different pointing qualities, CMU. It's being painted gray. Yes, the original building was not a building for which the district was designated, but it's being consciously preserved, but really not. And the replacement of the spandrels with brick, I don't really see that it adds to the composition. I don't see that it enhances anything about the historic responsiveness of the project. I mean, aesthetically, it's, in this rendering, it's fine. I think in real life, when you see that you have now type brick 4 on a building that's all being kind of slathered with gray paint, I don't know how it's going to really look, but I don't think it'll look better than the metal panels. So I guess I'm not a supporter.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for your comments. And I should say, for other commissioners who are not as familiar, when we review proposed amendments, we are looking to see whether the proposed revision in the scope of work is in keeping with the intent of the original approval. And so I appreciate your comments. I had forgotten that you didn't support it the first time, but you were certainly consistent in finding in your findings on this revised proposal today. Commissioner Ginsburg.
I can support this. It's a complicated issue, but I think this will continue what we approved last time. I would note that, as I understand, it's a stain, not a paint. And from my understanding, at least where it's exposed in the exterior, every 8 to 15 years, a new coating will be done because it will fade, and they should plan on that so that it doesn't start looking like a series of Band-Aids.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Chen.
Yeah, I'm in agreement that at least this is amendment and is give it a shot, and I think I agree with Commissioner Ginsburg.
Okay, Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, because this is a non-contributing building, and I think it, and I think that the general look of it does unify these other buildings here, that I can support it for those reasons.
Okay. Commissioner Chu.
Yeah, and in essence, what's being retained is the mass of what was there. The facade is totally different. Its presence is different. I don't see that as this approach is necessarily celebrating the historic character of the existing structure in any way. The column locations and the effect to the facade are totally reasonable. I understand that. The proposal to use the brick instead of the metal panel, I guess they could have been metal panel and just moved. The reason I liked that more was because it was recalling some of the horizontal movement of the previous facade. This proposal to me is a little less clear in that the previous one, which did create these bands, does suggest a new insertion into those horizontals. This a bit confuses what was there, makes it feel like it was a punched window facade. I guess it's appropriate. It's not a big effect to the overall design. And I concur with the previous commissioner's comments about stain.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Master.
Yeah, I understand the reasoning for this change, that there's structural elements that they didn't realize, in advance. And it's really the window, kind of changes in the window pattern. And, given, what they found structurally, I can find this appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jefferson.
Well, this is the type, it's in the Bronx. And if you put a coating on it that has to be replaced every 8 years, or if it starts to look shabby, we know what's going to happen. And it's not going to be replaced, it's going to be shabby. So what can we do? Unless we can get a coating that we could put on there that would last 20 years, then I would think it's appropriate. But I know it's going to be shabby. And then the story then is that, we know what the story would be, that everything starts to fall apart in the Bronx and it gets shabby. And there must be a way that we could align these facades with a color or something, or put a rain screen on it that would last 25 years or something, not 8 years.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I guess I have to approve it because there's no other choice, but it's not approving something that I can happily.
Well, I think, you have to think about what you think is appropriate. I think from the maintenance perspective, I think we have not necessarily found work to be inappropriate because it requires maintenance. But it is a good point that it will require maintenance. And I think the applicants see this product as a product where they can maintain the building and they can replace the coating as it
The product
ages,
has
or
to
if there's graffiti.
Yeah, the product has to be at least 10 to 15 years, because I've done these and I know that over 5 or 10 years, they vanish into the history of New York City. So if they could find a product and prove to you that this product could hold up for 10 years, then it would be great. There must be a product that can.
So I think we can ask them to work with the staff to explore the product and its durability.
Yeah, and I think that may be what the manufacturer guarantees, but I think we've also seen evidence that the stain can last much longer than that, and they wear differently than a paint film that may peel off. It's actually a stain. It's more of a bond with the substrate, and it takes erosion essentially to make that wear off. So I do think there is a longer time horizon for a product like this that they're looking at, but we can continue to work with them to make a good selection.
Okay.
Well, the other issue is that the surface preparation is so well done, washed down, clean, so that the adherence would be there for at least 10 years, if that can happen.
Okay. All right. So I think, why don't I go ahead and make this motion for us? And thank you all for your comments. All right. In the matter of docket number 25-05-195, 1040 Grand Concourse, the Grand Concourse Historic District, museum originally built as a synagogue and community hall designed by Simon B. Zelnick and built in 1961, and later altered and expanded by Castro Blanco Piscianeri and Associates. I hope I pronounced that correctly, in 1988. This is an application to amend a Landmarks Preservation Commission approval to demolish, alter, and redesign portions of the building and site. And I note that the Bronx Museum of Arts has grown over time into a complex of buildings designed by multiple architects and designers and spanning multiple lots. That the first structure on the site was the synagogue and community hall designed by Simon B. Zelnick and built in 1961. The city later purchased the lot for the museum and the structure, and it was altered in 1988. The museum was further expanded with the construction of 1046 Grand Concourse, a contemporary style new building designed by Architectonica and built in 2002 to 2006, which is located on the adjacent lots 6 and 8. And I also note that the Grand Concourse Historic District is located on a 1-mile stretch of the Grand Concourse, consisting of apartment houses, 2 parks, and several public institutions. And I recommend that we issue a positive report finding that the proposed work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features of the buildings, that the change from ribbon windows to punched openings at the former synagogue building is warranted due to the location of existing structural elements and will not detract from the composition of the facade or the overall complex, and that the re-exposed facade at the former synagogue building, consisting of face brick, backup brick, and concrete masonry units, all to be finished with an off-white coating previously approved for use on other exposed masonry units in the complex, will visually unify the facade of this non-contributing building. And I do encourage the applicant to continue to work with the staff on and to explore the durability of the coating, which was previously approved. And I find that the revised changes are in keeping with the original intent of the approval. All right, Commissioner Chen, would you second that motion?
Second.
John, will you call
Chair
the vote?
Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
7 in favor, 1 opposed, motion passes.
All right, that's approved. All right, and we will move to our next public hearing item.
Okay, we're gonna resume the public hearing agenda.
Thank you.
To public hearing item number 8, LPC 25-01663, an application for certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 567, Lot 23, 23 East 9th Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District. This is a house built in 1843 and remodeled in the 20th century. The application is to construct rooftop and rear yard additions, modify the front and side facades, reconstruct the rear facade, remove skylights in the section of the floor, and excavate the cellar.
Hello, my name is Elliot Royce. I'm a project architect at Made Design in Brooklyn and a registered architect in the state of New York. I'm here with Ben Bischoff, the applicant of record, and Tim Brock, the director of architecture. 23 East 9th Street is on the north side of East 9th Street between 5th and University Place. The building is at the end of a series of historic 4-story townhouses situated between 2 14-story buildings at either end of the block. Directly across the street, there is a modern 26-story apartment building. Okay, back up. All right, sorry about that. The townhouse was built in 1843 by a hardware merchant, and over its 180-year history, the building has undergone several alterations, including the conversion to an apartment building and removal of the stoop in the 1920s, the removal of the cornice and extension of the parapet in the 70s, and the replacement of the top and ground floor windows in 2001 without LPC permission. Our goal with this proposal is to restore the historic fabric of the building wherever possible while we reestablish its use as a single-family home. At the front facade, we are working with LPC staff to replace the windows with historically appropriate wood units and recreate the wood cornice. For this public hearing, we are proposing to eliminate an atypical recess at the front basement entry, lower the existing parapet wall to its historic height, and apply silicate mineral paint to the brick surfaces. The existing brick facade shows considerable deterioration with numerous repairs made using mismatched bricks. This is particularly noticeable at the removed stoop and the extended parapet, but also at the windows and lintels where repairs have been made. Surface level cracks, damaged units, and spalling are prevalent. The condition that we're most concerned with is a wire brush or other mechanical device was used to grind the brick. This process destroyed the brick's fire skin, which is the outer surface that protects or provides waterproofing. The effects of this compromised fire skin can be seen at the interior where discoloration, failing mortar joints, decaying window frames, and damaged brick are consistent with continued water infiltration. To address this, we looked to historical precedent in the neighborhood. Early 19th century brick, like the brick used at 23 East 9th Street, was softer, more porous, and more prone to water infiltration than a modern post-1870 brick. Early 1800 brick facades were often maintained by coating the brick with a lime wash or a more durable combination of lime and milk protein, which protected against water infiltration. These mineral coatings were naturally white. It wasn't until later when pigments became more widely available that other colors were introduced. On this slide, you can see street scenes from 1895. These are all from the neighborhood within a block radius of our project site and include a mix of townhouses and neighborhood institutions like the Brevert Hotel and Hotel Martin. Note in particular that between 1895 and 1916, when these photos were taken, the buildings adjacent to the Hotel Martin was coated white on both the front and visible side facades. While these buildings near our site have been destroyed to create large apartment buildings, there are still many examples of white painted brick buildings in the Greenwich Village Historic District, as you can see on these slides. It's within this tradition that we're proposing using a Kane silicate mineral paint in a soft white color to coat the brick facade. This vapor permeable coating will prevent further deterioration of the front facade and harmonize its mismatched appearance. The top left shows a test sample that we've applied on the rear facade. This page shows our proposed materials at the front facade. The brownstone base is to be repaired as required. The windows, metalwork, cornice, and lintels are to be painted black in Benjamin Moore of Midnight. And like I said, the Kane silicate paint is to coat the brick surfaces in a soft white Benjamin Moore halo. At the front entry, we are also proposing to eliminate this atypical recess by shifting the front door assembly about 3'6" forward to a more typical location in the front wall, as you can see in the right plan. The front entry will lead into a double height vestibule space. Zooming out to the larger block, 23 East 9th Street is the only 3-story plus basement building on the block. It stands at the end of a series of taller 4-story townhouses. Many of the rear yards on the block have been developed with full lot extensions like the building across the rear yard from our site. Here we've rendered that streetscape with our proposed facade condition. On the existing roof, there's a stair bulkhead that is visible from the side alley and 2 skylight bulkheads that are not visible from any public way. This side alley was created when the large apartment building was erected in the 1920s. We are proposing to remove the existing roof assembly, existing stair bulkhead, skylight bulkheads, and the existing rear yard extensions here and here, and construct a new extension, new stair bulkhead, and a new roof deck. The new extension will project to the rear yard about 3 feet less than the current extensions. The red line shows the extent. The railing at the perimeter of the roof deck will be set back 3'6", so it won't be visible from any public way. Like the existing stair bulkhead, the new bulkhead will not be visible over the primary facade, as you can see in this diagram, but will be visible from the side alley. There are some mock-up photos later to show this condition. The existing side facade is visible from the side alley. We plan to remove the roof assemblies and lower the parapet wall to match the front elevation. You can see the rear extensions here, which are to be removed. The new extension and the new bulkhead will be clad in stucco at the sidewall and painted with Kane silicate paint to match the front elevation. The parapet wall at the bulkhead and main building mass will be topped with new bluestone coping. Here you can see a comparison of the existing and proposed sidewalls. The rear extension will be a single-story double height space, as you can see in this proposed section. We are also proposing to excavate down 2 foot at the center of the cellar, benching at the sidewalls where required. At the rear, this slide shows the existing non-original rear extension, which we plan to remove, and the original rear facade of the main building mass. The original rear facade exhibits heavy masonry damage on the exterior from water infiltration through multiple facade penetrations. This can also be seen at the rear yard or the rear wall interior, the top floors. And on this image on the right shows that the rear wall was subject to significant later alterations on the lower floor, likely during constructions of those later additions. These alterations have compromised the stability of the rear facade. Due to the structural inadequacy and poor masonry condition, we propose deconstructing and rebuilding the rear wall in its historic configuration, matching the existing masonry openings and brick cornice. These images show the rear yard is boxed in by full lot extensions to the west and north and a 14-story building to the west. The proposed rear elevation shows the reconstructed rear wall in its historic configuration above and a new brick extension below with a double height wood window wall and painted wood transom. We intend to keep the same material palette from the front of the house on the rear, with the metal work and windows to be painted black in Benmore Midnight and the Kane silica paint to coat the brick surfaces in Halo. We built a mock-up of the new bulkhead and rear extension so we can see where they are visible. The mock-up is not visible when looking at the building from the west down 9th Street or from the east past University. So head on at the building and looking from the corner. The bulkhead will be minimally visible from the corner of University Place and East 9th Street, shown here, and also further down University Place. Through the side alley, the rear of the new extension is minimally visible, through the side alley, the rear of the new extension will be visible from East 10th Street, shown here. And then I'm going to quickly run through the plans just to show locations and plan. We've been looking mostly at elevations and sections. So at the cellar, we plan to excavate down 2 feet in the center portion of the cellar, not at either the front or back wall. And we plan to use benching where required. The basement plan shows the extent of the extension, and here is the double height vestibule, which you can see on the parlor floor as well. The second floor here, you can see the roof deck created by the new extension. There are no exterior changes on the 3rd floor. And then the roof plans, which were largely covered with the site plans. And then I want to end my presentation looking at here at the front view of the building. So this is from across East 9th Street. Thank you for your time. Look forward to questions and deliberation.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll have questions. Commissioner Goldblum, do you want to start? And then Commissioner Ginsburg.
Okay, so the brick that on the front facade that is not, doesn't have a good coat on it, is that just the lighter orangey pinky brick, or is that the whole thing?
What do you mean? Sorry.
In other words, there's a band of brick at the top.
Yeah.
That's clearly a different color than
Yep.
the body.
That's the extended parapet from
Right.
the 70s.
And then there's the area of the infill where there used to be a door.
Correct.
Is that the uncoated brick, or is it all uncoated?
It's all uncoated. At some point, the surface has been deteriorated. It looks like something's been scraped across it, and the surface of it's completely gone.
Okay. And can you go to the images that you're suggesting represent the deterioration of the rear facade necessitating its reconstruction?
Yeah. So far right is the exterior of that rear facade.
And that's the upper level, or
That's just the upper level here.
and show me what it is about that indicates that it's structurally unsound.
So this is the lower level
Right.
of that wall.
Right.
We have just significant cracking along the lintels. The lintels are sitting on very little material on either side.
Okay.
And it's, yeah,
Well, that would be buried by your rear yard addition. Show me about the upper levels that you want to rebuild. And
So,
why those are,
basically the masonry condition is in really poor shape and is structural hardship down below to support during construction and demolition. We believe to create a long-lasting wall that kind of recreates this historic condition, building a new wall is the best route.
so it's not that this particular section of 2 stories of the building are themselves unsound, it's just that it's hard to hold it up when you're doing it.
They are currently unsound and will require more structural support.
Okay.
So,
All right,
yeah.
thanks.
All right, Commissioner Ginsburg.
So I have a few questions. The
Yep.
first is you're cutting down the front parapet and putting a new cornice on.
Correct.
How much of the added brick from the 70s will be visible when you're done?
None.
Okay.
So in the appendix, we have a view of what we're proposing of the historic cornice. The way it works out based on historic pictures is the bottom of the cornice is right around where that new 70s brick starts. So right up above, there's going to be like one course, but that,
Okay.
so minimally visible.
Is the Kine masonry paint
Yeah.
removable?
It's a very durable coating that will be hard to remove.
Okay. Did you look at, you were describing how there was a historic coating
Yeah,
of
lime.
right?
So we would be willing to work with LPC staff to like propose a reversible lime wash coating for this building as well. The reason we propose the Kine product is because it's more durable and won't wash off like the lime wash. So less maintenance
Right.
overall.
And finally, did you look at using a clear masonry coating instead of a coating that changes the color?
We looked at masonry stains to match the brick to kind of.
That isn't what I asked. They're
Yeah.
clear masonry coatings that act as a waterproofing that could be used here.
Yeah. We did not, because one of the things we're trying to solve on this front facade as well is to kind of unify all the mismatched bricks and kind of various repairs. So no.
Thank you.
All right, yes, Commissioner Chu.
Do we know the historic side elevation status? And because it looks like there was stucco put on.
It looks like it's parged. Corey, I don't know if you want to speak to that at all. I mean, it was, it would have probably been a more common brick originally, and then at some point over the course of time, it was parged over, which is,
So-
typical of lot line conditions, right?
Right.
Maybe the applicant knows something from maps or historic photographs, but if there was another building in the row or just a separate building up against it.
Yeah, if I
depending on
go to
when it was
this,
built would dictate, was that a party wall that was never intended to be exposed? Was it just common brick? And either way, often we do see those eventually coated with stucco or perhaps paint, but I think maybe there's more information. you can
yeah,
share.
so if you look at the picture on the right, which is from 1913, there used to be another tall building next to it,
Okay.
which was just destroyed in the early 20s
Okay.
to create a taller building, which has that alleyway condition.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Jefferson.
There are two skylights in the rear facade, and you're removing them both. What's the reason for that functionally in terms of your building?
Sorry, just flipping to him. So the skylights are non-visible from the public way, and just to kind of as part of the program for the new building, there was no requirement for the skylights in the new program.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we're gonna move to testimony
Okay.
and we'll come back to you and yes, Jeremy Woodoff.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeremy Woodoff, speaking for the Victorian Society in New York. The Victorian Society supports most of the changes proposed for 23 East 9th Street. As we noted last week when we testified on 39 Sydney Place, we support preserving examples of the architecturally important reimagining of 19th century row houses, which went on in the first decades of the 20th century. I think we should note for future reference that these applicants are proposing to restore this house to single-family use without putting a stoop back on it. We commend the applicant for their proposed use of painted wood casements and transoms on both the front and rear facades and at the new roof bulkhead. We also commend them for the pair of wooden glass doors they propose for the main entrance at ground level and for the restoration of the historic cornice, which remained on the house as part of the 20th century conversion, but has been missing for some time. The roof bulkhead will be visible, but from such small areas and in conjunction with other buildings that we don't feel it will detract from the district. Because of the building's position at the end of the block, and because they are reducing the footprint, the construction at the rear will not diminish the donut. And because the rear facade has been altered many times, the proposed reconstruction will not destroy any significant historic material. However, we found it difficult to determine from the photos provided what percentage of brick on the street facade is original, what percentage of that is sound, and what percentage is a replacement. Proper cleaning, pointing, and minor replacement of brick may well result in a satisfactory appearance. Note that in the tax photo, the areas of replaced brick appear to be a perfect match. In looking at the detailed brick photographs, it doesn't necessarily appear to me that the brick has been eroded on the exterior. There were many historic finishes that could be found on old brick. If needed, there are translucent and semi-opaque time coatings that can reduce variations in appearance without changing the essential character of the red brick facade, which seems never to have been painted. We urge the applicant to work on an alternative to a bright white opaque coating. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I will turn it over to Gregory Collett to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have a couple of remote participants with their hands raised. The first we'll be hearing from is Chloe Gregoire from Village Preservation. Chloe Gregoire, I've promoted you to panelist. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good day, Commissioners. My name is Chloe Gregoire, and I'm speaking on behalf of Village Preservation. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Village Preservation believes that this original red brick facade should be retained. There is no precedent for a white coating at this facade or along this particular streetscape, and we do not see a need to introduce it now. The primary facade of this building will be best preserved by retaining its current brickwork and repairing or replacing the individual bricks as needed. We are otherwise pleased to see the staff level restoration work planned for this facade. We also find the proposed rooftop addition to be too visible. We understand that the interior stair dictates to some extent the placement of the bulkhead, but we ask that it be sloped and or set back in order to reduce its visibility over the front and side facades. Finally, the utmost care must be taken during the excavation work to ensure protection of this building and of its neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from Lucy Levine from the Historic Districts Council. Lucy Levine, I just promoted you to panelist. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. HDC notes there is much work being proposed here, which is largely appropriate. However, we have two concerns. First, we don't believe the existing condition of the brick warrants painting the facade. Second, in the rear, we find the bulk and composition of the addition to be appropriate, but we consider the loss of the rooftop skylight unfortunate, and we hope the applicant can find a programmatic way to reuse it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 2 recommends approval of the front facade, windows, cornice, and entrance modifications, approval with reservation of the white paint represented by the applicant as necessary for preservation of the facade, approval of the rooftop addition provided that steps are taken to reduce its visibility from a public thoroughfare, approval of the 2 upper floors of the rear facade, and approval of the rear extension provided that the window be heightened to reflect the 2-story historic facade, and that the garden fence, which was not presented, be reviewed by the commission staff. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Would you like to respond to the comments we've heard? Many of them were about the choice of the coating, both the color and the coating in itself. But some comments also about the visibility of the bulkhead, the loss of the skylight, and the fenestration pattern at the rear.
Hi, so I'm Tim Brock, Director of Architecture at Made Design Build. So I guess I would first start with the condition of the brick at the front facade and the idea to paint it white. it's a little hard to show with the resolution we're limited to in the photos, but if you actually see this building in person, every single brick surface on it has circular abrasion marks. It's unusual because we don't have photos of it that look like it was ever painted, but it has the appearance of somebody clumsily removing the brick or some kind of coating from the brick previously. So there's really no surface protection of the facade at all. It's completely open to water infiltration. The idea behind a potassium silicate coating is that it is impervious to bulk water intrusion, but allows the brick to breathe. So it's an excellent product for protecting the facade for the long term. The idea behind coating it white has to do with the tradition of, you know, if a facade was coated at the time that this building was made or near the time it was built, it would have been done so in that light, soft white color, which was the available coating color at the time. And regarding the existing skylights, those are not visible from any public way, so we don't see them as necessarily their removal necessarily detracting from any of the historic fabric of the building that contributes to the publicly visible aspects of the building, and it would significantly detract from our ability to program the interior of the building to maintain them. So that would be my
Okay.
rebuttal.
And do you know if there was, I don't know, you may not have done the research, but if there was any history of artists occupying the building?
We've dug pretty deep into every historic document we could find about this building. We have not been able to find any record of any notable artists occupying the building.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Ginsburg.
Would trying to somewhat minimize the bulkhead, sloping it a bit, so on, be possible? It'd be nice to reduce it a bit, and you haven't responded to the comments about suggesting that.
I think that's something we would be willing to study with staff. We see it, you know, the visibility of the bulkhead is a result of the historic building that was immediately adjacent being removed in the 20s. So from the primary sort of head-on view and further down the street, it is not visible, but we do understand the concerns of the community.
Thank you.
And it's just this limited corridor through which you see the bulkhead.
Yeah, what we've presented.
Okay. Any other final questions? All right, I think we're going to move to our discussion now. Commissioner Jefferson, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Master. Would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed and we'll begin our discussion. So this was a building that was early row house that was altered in the early 20th century, as we've seen frequently in this district, with the removal of the stoop and the installation of multi-light windows. And the applicant is proposing to restore the cornice and the multi-light windows and retain that basement entry and install new doors. But they are proposing to coat the front, side, and rear facade, as we've heard, with this white coating that is breathable, but I think not necessarily reversible. And then the proposal also includes the two-story rear yard addition, reconstructing the top two floors in the same plane, and installing a rooftop bulkhead that you can see over the side facade between the two buildings. And we've had some discussion about the removal. I think there are actually 3 skylights, 2 on the building and 1 on the rear yard addition, to accommodate the new addition. So we'll begin our discussion, or we'll have our discussion on the removal of existing elements to construct those new elements. Commissioner Chu, would you like to start this one?
Sure. So I'm just gonna go through the various items one by one. In terms of the front facade, the bringing back the cornice, I think is a great proposal, and I fully support it. It actually removes what is to me the biggest brick difference look on the facade, which is this upper parapet piece. So by bringing that cornice back, you're bringing back the historic height and scale of the building, which is great. I'm in favor of the work you're doing to replace the windows. And in terms of the additions that are being proposed, the rear addition not visible, I think is okay. The rooftop, I do agree with previous comments, could be minimized without much harm to the function of the stair going up. On the front facade, you could slope it, I think, without any obstruction to the headroom clearance of the stair going up. I'm sorry to see the skylights removed because it was obviously a major element of this townhouse. It had 3 massive skylights on it, which gave it kind of a unique character. The applicant is correct that you could not really see them previously. I wish they could have incorporated that somehow up above. I do understand that the section was altered in order to bring the cornice back, which would have eliminated that upper volume. So I do understand the challenge in keeping them. In terms of the condition of the front brick, I understand the applicant is stating that the front face has lost its protective front coating or natural brick coating, and therefore is at risk of further damage and deterioration, which is possible. I think that just needs to be confirmed. There does appear to be small hairline cracks. The color differentiation really that I see once the cornice work is done will be where the stoop was. I really believe that we need to explore a little bit more whether a coating that doesn't completely alter the color of the facade is possible. I think Commissioner Ginsburg raised options of more clear coatings, which may help soften the difference between the stoop brick and the existing brick and make it a little bit more uniform without completely altering the color. The existing street has red brick facades this whole run, and this is a big difference. I also think because there was a street front facade, there was typically a differentiation of the front face than the side elevations. In this case, the whole house would be a white color, which is not more of a corner building approach, not a front facade building aesthetic. That's really my biggest concern right now is the coating and the coloration of the facade. And I do feel that I can't accept right now this white silicate coating. I know the silicate coating has history. It can last a long time, but it is more aggressive and will not be removable. And it's probably got like a 15-year life on it, need to be reapplied. But because it alters the landscape visually of the street so much, I have to ask if other options are available.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Master?
Yeah, I commend the applicant on doing a lot of the work in terms of restoring the cornice and the multi-casement windows. I think that's excellent. In terms of the rooftop addition, I'm actually okay with it as is because you can't really see it from the front. And I think you can see it minimally from this narrow alleyway. So I think it's fine. And there's also very large apartment buildings in this streetscape. In terms of the rear yard addition, it's 3 feet less than the current extension. And so I think and it's not visible from a public thoroughfare. So I think it's acceptable. I'm okay with them removing the skylights as the skylights are not visible. And as I said, it's necessary for some of the changes that they wanted to make. And the changes to the front entryway are also appropriate. And then in terms of the rear facade, they said that they were going to reconstruct the rear facade. My understanding from some of the discussion is that the rear facade had been reconstructed previously and it's not original. And that,
No, I think
is it original?
Top floor, but the upper floor is
Okay. So, I mean, it would be nice if they could retain the upper two floors, but I'm not clear in terms of the work that's being done, whether structurally it can be retained or not. So I think I would leave that up to, I don't know, the staff to see if it could be, I mean, if it could be retained, obviously that would be preferable.
Okay. Commissioner Chu, I don't know if you commented on the reconstruction of the top two floors.
No, in fact, thank you for bringing that up. I think it's important that we really understand that. I mean, it's an existing, if it's existing material, without going ahead and wholesale and rebuilding, I'd like to know that it needs to be replaced.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Agree with most of the previous testimony. I do think that the top two floors should be retained if it can be. The staff should discuss that. And I do think that the skylights, you know, should be integrated somehow. I think it's a very kind of an interesting architectural element of this. And because it's not seen, or it's not seen by the public, it's seen by the donut people. So that should be investigated. And the color also, yeah.
Okay.
So
Commissioner Goldblum.
Bulkhead should definitely come down. I agree also with this. I would follow staff recommendation on that. Oops, sorry. If the staff feels that the white is the right white and that side, the relationship of the color of the side and the front are appropriate, I would go with their recommendations, but I think his comments are appropriate and wise. No problem with the cornice, no problem with the windows. I think that the rear yard addition is fine. I think that the applicant hasn't shown me the evidence that the rear wall needs to be reconstructed. And if the issue is really just putting in a bearing beam, God knows this project is of a scope sufficient to incorporate that, to have it shored and maintained. I see no reason to remove the skylight at the back of the roof, which is proposed to have air conditioners put on it. I'm sure we could find another place for those air conditioners. And I thought that was kind of a little bit visible from the other street. Maybe I was misreading the photo, but it looked to me like you could see it from the back. And it is one of the, you know, quintessential elements of buildings of this vintage in the village. So I think we should go to whatever efforts that we can to maintain it. And it looked to me also like the skylight at the lower level might be transposable to the roof of the lower level rear yard addition. I think that's less urgent because it is less visible, but it would be worth exploring with the staff. I have pause because I feel I'm not technically competent to make the decision when staff raises the concern of the nature of the coding, that no coding be used that doesn't satisfy their requirements.
Thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg.
So there's a lot that's good about this project that my fellow commissioners have already discussed, so I'm not going to repeat on that. But I want to go through things. I can live with the removal of the lower skylight on the addition, but I think the upper one should be kept. and as Commissioner Goldblum said, mechanical relocated. And if that means there's less roof terrace up on the roof, so be it. I think you should look at a clear masonry coating. I think the fact that some of the brick doesn't totally match represents some of the history of the building. And so I have no problem, and the white coating to clean it up and make it look pristine doesn't seem to me to be worthwhile. So only if you could come back or show staff that clear coating won't work and that you've investigated it, but I think that would solve the issue. I think the bulkhead can be cut down a bit and should be. And the rear wall, it may be there is no way to save it, but if that were the case, a structural engineer should be here explaining that to us. And otherwise, I would look at trying to preserve it. And as Commissioner Goldblum indicated, this is a big enough project, so preserving it should not be impossible.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Chen.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with a lot of the comments. I think, I'm glad to see that they're restoring the corners and the windows. I think the biggest issue is, just like Commissioner Chu for me, is the front and the coating. And I think that given the predominance of the brick and this irreversible of the new coating and the short life cycle of the new coating, I really think that this is the area that we should work on in terms of what this.
Thank you. Commissioner Chapin.
So good thing is that, the building is being addressed, which is very important. The replacement of the cornice is fine. I think that the design of the back is fine, and then any changes to the front facade in terms of design are also fine. And I don't really have a problem with the removal of the skylights because they're not visible and they're just a functional element. So I don't think they need to be preserved as part of history. I am concerned about, and the bulkhead is okay. I am concerned about both the removal of the brick, though if it's verified that it needs to be removed, that's fine. And I am also concerned about the coating because it's not clear to me that this is going to be a successful intervention. So we need some more information or proof that this is a workable solution, that this is the right solution, as opposed to, like, say, stucco or something. I mean, I would be fine if it's an appropriate solution. I also think that the color is really out of place in the row, and I think the color of any coating should be similar to what's on it now, or to a general brick color. But so I could approve it with the assurance that it's going to be, that the physical solutions they're proposing for the deteriorated brick and the damaged brick are appropriate, and also with the change in the color.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you all, commissioners, for your thoughtful comments. So we're not going to take an action today. There are a number of things that we'd like you to reconsider. I think that every one of the commissioners who spoke today had concerns about the coating, both the type of coating and reversibility of it and breathability of it, although we know it's breathable, and the color. And so that is something that you need to go back and restudy and come back to us with. And many people suggested a clear coating or no coating if not necessary, but if necessary, clear coating, or something that blends in with the red brick on the streetscape and on the existing building. Also, I think most commissioners were concerned with the reconstruction of the top two floors if it's not necessary. So I think your goal should be to try to keep those in place. And if you really feel that their condition warrants replacement, then we need more information to be able to make that determination. And then there were some other comments from commissioners about studying the shape and or height of the bulkhead and the possibility of incorporating a skylight into the design to sort of retain a piece of that history. So that's something else you can explore. So we'll take no action and we'll have you back when you're ready. Okay. Thank you. All right, so it's now 12:36. We're going to break for lunch. We'll come back at 10 after 1, and we'll ask all members of the public who are in the hearing room to leave the hearing room for now, and all members of the public who are currently in the Zoom meeting. And if you wish to return, we ask that you voluntarily remove yourself now so that you don't have any technical difficulties returning that might occur if we remove you. So we'll ask everybody to leave the hearing room and the Zoom meeting at this time, and we'll see everybody back at 10 minutes after 1 o'clock. Thank you.